Okay, so today we're going to be learning about CPCTC. Corresponding parts of congruent triangles are congruent. Remember, guys, if two triangles are congruent, then there are 6 things that are the exact same. 3 sides and 3 angles. But you only need to find 3 things to prove that 2 triangles are congruent. So, once you've proven that 2 triangles are congruent by finding those 3 things, everything else is also congruent, and you can use CPCTC, that's the abbreviation for congruent parts of congruent triangles are congruent, to say that all the things are true that your eyes and brain believe right from the start. But first, you have to prove the triangles are what? Congruent, okay? So let's try one. Alrighty. So I'm going to put in my T-chart real quick. Okay. I'm cheating. I'm drawing in using lines. That's okay. Okay. The first thing I write is my givens. Angle E is congruent to angle R. That's my first given, right? If I look over here, oh look, they already did it for me. You'll see that? So the second one they say is O is the midpoint of ER. That's my second given. Well, one of my givens is one of my congruencies, isn't it? So I go and put an A by it because that's an angle congruency. So I look at my second given. It tells me O is the midpoint of ER. That tells me what? Does that give me a congruency? Yes, it does. What is it? Right. EO is congruent to RO. Okay. And my reasoning for that would be definition of midpoint. Bless you. Alright. So look, they already marked that for me too. That's a side congruence, so put an S out there. Do I have another congruence that is up here but is not marked? Yeah. What? Okay. So, without any smirking or giggling, let's name these angles. Okay? So I know that angle, let's just say EOH, okay, is congruent to angle ROS. Good. And that would be why. What's our reasoning? Vertical angles. Good. Now, that's another angle, right? So I look, is this angle side angle? Yes. So have I proven that these triangles are congruent? Yes. So that's my next step, is to write my triangles are congruent. So triangle EOH is congruent to triangle ROS. By what? ASA, angle side angle. Good. But that's not what they told me to prove, is it? No, they want me to prove that angle H is congruent to angle S. Have I proven these triangles are congruent? Yes. So, I can also prove that angle H is congruent to angle S by what? Right, CPCTC. And it's just as simple as that, because if you can prove the triangle's congruent, then it proves that everything else, all the other corresponding angles and sides, are congruent. It wasn't so bad. I'm going to do the next one. Okay. Okay, so let's take a look at this one. All right, I need to draw my lines in real quick. When did that microphone show up? Was that there before? Okay. Alrighty, well, we'll just ignore him. And let's just move on. So they gave me that UN is perpendicular to AJ. So that's one of my givens. Alright. What's another given? UN is a angle bisector of angle ANJ. So there's my two givens, right? Okay, so I can't number correctly. Let me fix that. Change that back to a 1. Okay, so now I need to look over here. If they tell me UN is perpendicular to AJ, I know that here at U, I've got two right angles, don't I? So, I have right triangles, right? I need to figure out, is this going to be hypotenuse leg or is it going to be something else? So I have to look at everything they've given me and what's not shown. They gave me angle bisectors, right? They gave me the two right angles, but I also know what? That it's sharing a side. Is this going to be hypotenuse leg?
No.
No, there's no way. They say nothing about the hypotenuse, right? So I know I don't need to prove the triangles are right triangles. I just need to be able to say that those two angles are congruent because they're right angles, right?
Yeah.
Well, the first thing we need to say is they're right angles. So the first thing I'm going to do is on number 3, I'm going to say that both angle AUN and angle JUN are right angles. And when I state that, my reasoning for that is definition of perpendicular. And I'm going to use the perpendicular symbol here. Then, knowing that they're both right angles, I can say that angle AUN is congruent to angle JUN. And that's just definition of what, guys? Congruence. Okay? That's an angle congruency, right? Now, go to the second given they gave you. UN is an angle bisector of angle ANJ. What does that do? It cuts that angle into two equal angles, right? So from that, I can say what? Angle what? ANU would be congruent to angle JNU. And my reasoning for that is definition of bisector. Okay? So there's another angle congruence, right? The last congruence I had was the side, so UN is congruent to UN. If it's congruent to itself, it's what? Reflexive. Good. Now I can state that the triangles are what? Congruent. So AUN is congruent to triangle JUN. By what? What's our reasoning here? Angle, side, angle. Okay, so I've gotten the major part done, proving that the triangles are congruent, right? What does it tell me to prove? Use the midpoint. Well, knowing that these triangles are congruent, don't I know that AU is congruent to JU? And that's by CPCTC. And if they're congruent, then what else does that prove? Exactly. Proves that U is the midpoint of AJ. By what reasoning? Definition of a midpoint. Now, are y'all seeing how these are starting to work?
Yeah.
Good. All right. I hope this helped y'all.